"There's been a car crash. The driver might be right here." When that call came into the police control room, they thought it was just a routine road accident. It was 7:30 in the evening. On New Hampshire's Wild Ammonoosuc Road, a car had plowed into a snowbank. When police arrived exactly 7 minutes later, the car was there. The headlights were on. The airbags were deployed. The engine was still warm, but the driver was gone. No footprints. Not a single drop of blood. No sound of a scream. No cry for help. It was as if the girl had simply dissolved into that dark road. That girl's name was Maura Murray. The case of Maura Murray. Maura Murray was born on May 4, 1982, in the small town of Hanson, Massachusetts. She was the fourth child of Fred and Lori Murray. Her older siblings were Fred Jr., Kathleen, and Julie, and she also had a younger half-brother, Curtis. Maura's childhood was spent within the traditions of an Irish Catholic family. But when she was just 6 years old, her parents divorced. It was an event that split her life into two halves. Afterward, she primarily lived with her mother, but her bond with her father, Fred, never diminished. Fred, a medical technician, loved his daughter deeply. He was a pillar in her life, a father who stood by her through every difficult moment. From childhood, Maura possessed a unique spark. She was bright in her studies, but her true identity was forged on the athletic field. At Whitman-Hanson Regional High School, she made running her goal. She became a star runner on the track team. It was as if her feet had wings. As early as 1998, during her sophomore year of high school, she competed in the 2-mile run at the American National Scholastic Outdoor Championship and placed 33rd in the entire country. This achievement was a point of pride for any young athlete. But Maura never let it become a big deal. Her younger sister, Julie, recalls, "Whenever anyone mentioned her accomplishments, she would get embarrassed. She shied away from the spotlight. She was a simple, helpful person. Her inclination was toward serving humanity. Perhaps that's why she dreamed of becoming a nurse. During high school, she would volunteer at the nursing home where her mother worked, and she had a knack for cheering up the elderly by talking with them. The days at Whitman-Hanson Regional High School were among the happiest in Maura's life. She wasn't just an athlete, but also a promising student. Her teachers remember her as a responsible and dedicated girl. But Maura didn't just love to run. She also loved to read. There was always a pile of books in her room. She believed in helping others. If a classmate was struggling in a subject, Maura would step up and tutor them. It was in high school that she met Bill Roche, who would later become her boyfriend. Their relationship gradually deepened. Bill was an ordinary guy, attracted to Maura's intelligence and her kind nature. In 2000, Maura graduated from high school. Now it was time to dream big. A significant opportunity came Maura's way. Recognizing her talent, she was accepted into the prestigious United States Military Academy, known as West Point. With a nomination from Senator Edward Kennedy and her sister Julie already studying there, it was a moment of immense pride. She enrolled there in 2000 and began studying chemical engineering. But the strict discipline of West Point and the rigid rules of military life were perhaps not suited to her temperament. There, every step was bound by regulation. Waking up at the same time every morning, going to sleep at the same time every night. This discipline felt like a chain to Maura's independent spirit. After 3 semesters, she realized this wasn't the right place for her. The decision wasn't easy. Leaving a prestigious institution, especially when your sister is studying there, that took courage. But Maura showed that courage. She left West Point and enrolled closer to home, at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she began studying nursing. This decision shows that Maura was a thoughtful young woman, finding the right path to achieve her dreams. Her life at Amherst was busy. Alongside her studies, she also worked as a campus security guard. She wanted to be financially independent. She didn't want to be a burden on anyone. But life has its ups and downs. In November 2003, Maura made a mistake. She used someone else's stolen credit card to order food from some restaurants. This incident was a blemish on her life's record. The question arises, why would a promising student, an athlete, a girl dreaming of becoming a nurse, do such a thing? Was she struggling financially? Was it a prank? Or something else? Whatever the reason, she had to pay the price for this mistake. She was charged. However, in December, the case was dismissed on the condition of 3 months of good behavior. But this incident left a deep mark on her mind. Additionally, there were challenges in her personal life that the family learned about later. According to her sister Julie, Maura struggled with an eating disorder. She would sometimes eat very little, sometimes too much. This was perhaps born from stress or a feeling of losing control. These things are pieces of a puzzle that might help understand the events of that final week. That final week. The first week of February 2004 was quite tumultuous for Maura. Thursday, February 5th, 2004. Around 10:30 p.m., Maura was at her security guard job. She called her sister Kathleen. The conversation was about Kathleen's struggle with alcohol addiction and the ongoing fights with her fiancé. During the conversation, Maura suddenly burst into tears. Her supervisor reported that she seemed completely lost and wasn't responding to anything. The supervisor walked her back to her dorm room. When asked what happened, Maura said just 2 words, "My sister." Years later, Kathleen revealed that she had been discharged from the clinic where she was being treated for her alcohol addiction that very night. But on the way home, her fiancé took her to a liquor store, pushing her back into the abyss. This was the news that had broken Maura. Saturday, February 7th, 2004. Maura's father, Fred, arrived in Amherst. The two of them looked at car dealerships together. Maura needed a new car. At night, they had dinner together. Everything seemed normal. That night, Maura went to a party. She drank alcohol there. Around 2:30 a.m., she left the party. Sunday, February 8th, 2004. At 3:30 a.m., while driving her father's car, Maura was involved in a serious accident. She crashed into a guardrail in Hadley. Fred's car sustained about $10,000 worth of damage. Police filed a report at the scene, but there was no evidence of an alcohol test. Maybe the police didn't conduct one. Maybe Maura hadn't been drinking. Fred later said, "She was very upset about it. She was beating herself up over it. She couldn't stand disappointing her father." That final day, February 9th, 2004. Late that night, Maura had searched for routes to Berkshire and Burlington, Vermont, on her computer. She was planning to go somewhere. Around 1:00 p.m., she sent a loving email to her boyfriend, Bill Roche. She wrote, "I love you too. I will talk to you later." It was her last message. Around 1:15 p.m., she called about renting a condominium in Bartlett, New Hampshire. It was the same place her family used to go for vacations. She inquired about booking a room for a few days. Around 1:45 p.m., she emailed her supervisor at the nursing department, saying there had been a death in the family and she would be away for a week. This was a complete lie. After that, she called a recorded information number to inquire about hotels in Stowe and Burlington, Vermont. Around 3:00 p.m., she loaded her belongings into the car. Most of her things in her dorm room were packed in boxes, and pictures were taken down from the walls. Police initially thought she might be leaving for good, but the family later explained she had only moved into that room 12 days prior and probably just hadn't unpacked yet. 3:40 p.m. She went to an ATM and withdrew $280. CCTV footage shows her alone, wearing jeans and a dark jacket, her hair down, a strange sadness on her face. Around 3:50 p.m., she went to a liquor store and bought about $40 worth of alcohol. She purchased Bailey's, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of Franzia wine. The footage shows her alone again. She also picked up forms related to her father's car accident from the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Between 4 o'clock and 5:00 p.m., She left Amherst. No one saw her go. No one knew where she was heading. 4:37 p.m. She checked her voicemail. This was the last known use of her cell phone. After that, her phone went dead. Or was turned off. Or someone had it turned off. 7:27 p.m. On Route 112, also known as the Wild Ammonoosuc Road, in Haverhill, New Hampshire, a loud noise was heard. A local woman, Faith Westman, looked out her window and saw a black Saturn car had hit a snowbank. She immediately called the sheriff's department. She also mentioned seeing a red light glowing inside the car, perhaps from a cell phone. Around 7:30 p.m., a school bus driver, Butch Atwood, who lived nearby, was passing by. He saw a young woman walking around the car. She was shivering from the cold but didn't appear injured. Atwood stopped and offered help. He said, "Should I call the police?" The young woman refused. She said, "I already called AAA. A truck is coming." Atwood thought, that's strange. Cell phone networks don't work in that area. How could she have called AAA? Still, Atwood moved on. But after going a short distance, it felt odd to him. He went home and called the police from there. 7:43 p.m. Atwood's call was recorded at the police station. 7:46 p.m. When the police officer arrived at the scene, the young woman was gone. The car was locked. The headlights were on. The airbags were deployed. The driver's side window was broken. The windshield was cracked. The smell of alcohol was coming from inside. A box of Franzia wine was on the back seat. A AAA card was lying there. Blank accident report forms were scattered. Compact discs were strewn about. Written directions to Burlington, Vermont, were found. But Maura Murray was not there. Police searched the surrounding area. They combed the woods, patrolled the roads, called in AK-9 unit, flew helicopters. Nothing was found. No Maura, no clue. As if the earth had simply swallowed her up. Fred, her father, arrived in Haverhill the very next day. He started his own investigation. He went to every house door, asked every passerby, met with every police officer. But he was distrustful of the police. He believed the New Hampshire police initially failed to involve the FBI. They didn't release records. Fred even went to court, but couldn't obtain the investigative records. Senior Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Strelzin admitted years later, "There is no credible evidence of her whereabouts after the accident." Just minutes later, years passed, and the Maura Murray case became one of America's most talked about cold cases. Some people believed Maura was running away from her life's problems to start over in Canada or somewhere else. The credit card fraud case, the car accident, the guilt of disappointing her father. It was all weighing heavily on her. But her father and sister always dismissed this theory. She was too close with her family to cause them pain like that. Another theory was that someone picked her up on that desolate road that night. An opportunistic criminal. Someone who knew the area, who knew it took police 7 minutes to arrive. Retired Police Lieutenant John Healy believed she got into the wrong car or went to the wrong house. Some people believed the police deliberately stalled the investigation. Maybe a powerful local person was involved. Maybe the police concealed evidence. The family hired a private investigator, Lou Barry. His investigation brought up the name of a man who lived in the area and had a criminal history. Barry believed this man targeted women with disabled vehicles on the roadside. But no concrete evidence was found. In 2017, a documentary was made about Maura Murray. After that, podcasts were created. Books were written. The case came back into the spotlight. In 2022, the FBI finally entered the case into its Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, database. This was a significant step. It meant investigators now considered it a suspected and possibly violent crime. In 2025, investigative journalist James Renner made a startling revelation. A fingerprint recovered from inside Maura's car was matched to an individual, Stephen Baldwin. Baldwin had attended West Point with Maura. He was an acquaintance. Interestingly, Baldwin's real name was Stephen Finkelstein. He had changed his name to Baldwin in December 2004, a few months after Maura's disappearance. He later became the director of an animal shelter in Ohio. But in 2025, he was convicted on 32 counts of animal cruelty, theft, and bribery, receiving a sentence of over 15 years. The charges alleged that he would take money under the guise of rescuing animals and then kill them. After his arrest, his fingerprints were entered into the national database. That's when the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit discovered they matched the prints found in Maura's car. When journalists asked Baldwin about it, he acknowledged his connection to Maura. He claimed they had a casual romantic relationship at West Point. He had even appeared as a student representative on her behalf during a disciplinary hearing there. But he denied any involvement in Maura's disappearance. He claimed he had no contact with Maura after leaving West Point. He also said the FBI told him his prints were found on a CD or a CD case. He speculated that maybe he had given Maura some CDs back in their West Point days. However, James Renner is skeptical of Baldwin. Renner says, Baldwin's claims should be taken with caution because he is a convicted fraudster. Baldwin had also claimed that a senior cadet at West Point used to stalk Maura. But Renner doubts this story, seeing it as a possible attempt to mislead the investigation. Even more concerning is that two of Baldwin's former girlfriends have died under tragic circumstances. One died of a drug overdose. The other died in an alcohol-related accident. This raises further questions about his past. Despite all this, Baldwin has not yet been officially named a suspect or even a person of interest. Maura's sister, Julie, has expressed hope that this new evidence could prove helpful in solving the case. In February 2026, on the 22nd anniversary of the incident, the New Hampshire Attorney General's office issued a statement. Senior Assistant Attorney General R. Christopher Knowles, who heads the Cold Case Unit, said, "Decades may pass, but our resolve to find answers for Maura's family and the public does not diminish." He stated that the unit, in coordination with state and federal law enforcement agencies, is pursuing every credible lead. Most importantly, they are utilizing new technology, DNA techniques, digital forensics, satellite imagery that wasn't available in 2004. Investigators have appealed to the public. Any information, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, should be provided to the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit. The Maura Murray case remains unsolved today. No arrests have been made. No trial has occurred. No one has been convicted. Her family has accepted only one thing over more than 22 years. Maura is likely no longer in this world. But they are fighting for their right to know the truth. They want to know what happened to their daughter that night. Who touched her? Where her last breath left her? Julie Murray says, "Hope is what fuels families like ours. But at the same time, hope also tortures us, because with every passing day, we still don't have the answers." That cold evening of February 9th, 2004, that curve on Route 112, that car from which a girl vanished, even today, people passing by sometimes say they see a girl standing at that curve, wearing jeans and a dark jacket, her hair down, a strange sadness on her face. And then she disappears, just as she did 22 years ago. Maura Murray, the girl who dissolved into a dark road. Her story remains unfinished. Her questions remain unanswered. And the truth lies buried somewhere, waiting for the questions of her family. If you have any information about Maura Murray, please contact the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit. Even a small piece of information could be the final piece of this puzzle. Thanks for watching.